like a cinema. Right. So we start from the beginning now?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do that. So I'm delighted to get a chance to talk to you. You know, I've been struggling with the banking system for a long time, raising some issues that banking system doesn't extend to bulk of the population of the world, I see. But when I come to Russia, I see something else. We talk about microcredit, very popular subject in Russia. What I see, all mixed up. Payday lenders are called microcredit. Consumer loans are called microcredit. Loans for a small business called microcredit. I'm totally confused because from my background, where I come from, to me, microcredit means small loans, tiny loans for poor women to start something she can do to earn an income for income generating activity. So consumer loan is not in the picture. And we are trying to protect this woman from the loan shark. So is there a kind of definition for Russia, what microcredit is, what it is not? Because it's very important.
Well, you know, we also have two types of companies.
Yes.
Actually, a small number of companies, usually government sponsors, they provide credit to small businesses. So I guess this is something similar to what you have in mind. On the other hand, there is also not that big in comparison to banking institutions, but still significant market of microfinancial companies who provide consumer credits of different forms. They usually non-collateralized, usually have high interest rate. I think it is a very different issue. Why microcredit to people in order not only to smooth their consumptions but to change their lifestyle, let's put it this way. Why this one is not taking off? Well, you know, I actually read your book and, well, you call it social credit. I think that what you are doing is not only giving people money. We often think that the main thing which people or companies lack in order to change their life is money. I don't think it's exactly right. Money may be one of the elements which they need, but they may need skills. They may need some business idea, right? Poor people, they may be psychologically ready to become entrepreneurs, but they probably lack proper social networks, proper training, proper understanding of what does it mean to be an entrepreneur and so on. And my understanding is that your companies, maybe they don't even understand that they do that, but they actually provide these services to people in addition to microcredit. And I think that this is quite important for this kind of business to have positive effect on people's lives, rather than convert itself into the kind of microfinance we have in Russia now.
From our side, we always felt everybody has the entrepreneurial capacity. Simply, he or she never got an opportunity to use it. So once she's allowed, she'll discover her path. And doing this for many, many years in the past, and 42 years now, we have 9 million borrowers right in Grameen Bank alone. There are many other microcredit programs in Bangladesh. Probably altogether there'll be double the size, 18 million borrowers. Mostly women, 97% are women. These are illiterate women, village women. In the beginning, they're very nervous. But the way we create a system, 5 women get together, get to encourage each other and so on. We don't train anybody as such, but we give a format so that they can talk, share their ideas and so on. But it worked. People pay back near 100%. So we are convinced that people are entrepreneurs. Simply is a question of giving them an opportunity to do that. Sometimes I even call it financial resources are just like economic oxygen. If you do not give the oxygen, people collapse.
I agree with you that people may have entrepreneur spirit, And I can also agree that in some remote areas in Bangladesh, particularly women who are in the social ladder take some lower position than men probably, they just do not have access. And so you may have lots of women who can easily enter entrepreneurships just if you only give them some small amount of money and so on. Well, you know, in Russia we saw this about 30 years ago. When Soviet Union collapsed, actually we didn't have any microcredit industries. But at the time, this new type of business flourished when people were going abroad, maybe even to Bangladesh, definitely to China, to Poland, to some other neighboring countries, buying goods, bringing them to Russia, selling them. It was called in Russia Chilnaki. And believe me, most of Chilnaki were women.
Yep.
So women are capable of doing this, and actually at the time, and probably it's still true, many of the small entrepreneurs, small business people in Russia were women, because they easily get involved into these activities. So this first generation of entrepreneurs who created these businesses we already have, and we probably need to dig deeper into other forms of businesses. And my point is that for that people may need a little bit more skills and suggestions how economy works, how formal economy works, what they need to do to become entrepreneurs. So it's not just money, it's a little bit more of advice and connection to the system. And then, you know, when I read your book, I realized that you often have some platforms where not only you provide people money, but you sort of provide them business idea.
We don't give any business idea. We always encourage them to learn from each other. We tell them that, look, we are bankers. We only know how to give money. We don't know how to run business. If we knew how to run business, we'll be using our money to run our own business. Why should we come to you? So to make them kind of understand what the logic is. To give you another example, which will clarify these points, we run Grameen America in the United States. We're doing this the last 10 years. Now we have 25 branches in the United States. Right now we have 120,000 borrowers, all women. Startup loan is $1,000. Within that you have to start, and gradually as you pay back you get higher loans and so on. And over the last 10 years, repayment rate has remained near 99.5% and above. And there's no collateral, no guarantee, nothing. Again, there is no business idea. We don't have an American business idea. So we just tell them what business is. For example, dog walking is a business in New York City. In Bangladesh, we'll never think about it in 100 years, that dog walking could be a business. But it's a business. There are many other businesses, commonly women are familiar with, making cakes, pastries, and so on, handicrafts making, home cleaning, hairdressing, and all those kind of things. So I said that they have these ideas, simply never had the money. And that comes the next point that I raise. I said under the conventional banking law, you cannot reach the poor people because these are designed for the purpose of corporates and big businesses and so on and so forth.
First of all, I do not fully agree with you that banks now do not reach poor people. And maybe some 20 years ago it was not exactly like this, or 50 years ago. But now technologies make credit more accessible for people. This is first thing. Second thing, when several years ago we introduced this law on microfinance, this was our idea. We thought that it's companies of the type which you're talking about will fill in this niche, but we've got something else, right? We've got all those other lenders who provide consumer credit entering this niche. So, well, maybe I'm wrong, but I would look at it into something closer to charity rather than business.
We never had any aspect of charity in it. It's a very much business. Okay. It covers cost and so on. Grameen Bank is owned by the borrowers. The borrower themselves are the owners. They sit in the board, they make the decision. and they had dividends every year. To get 10%, 15%, 20% dividend from the business that they run. So it's no element of charity is involved in that. So in order to reach the poor people, you need a different kind of banking. I said, if you can create a separate law to create bank for the poor, like Grameen Bank is a bank for the poor. It has a separate law. It is not created under the banking law. So we exclusively work only with the poor people.
No, I understand. I think that your experience is very interesting. I think that, of course, we need to think how replicable it is.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Not by your bank, but
Right.
how many followers you have in
Right.
other countries. It's an important issue. And one more important issue is trust.
Yeah.
Right, because you say that in Bangladesh you rely a lot on trust among all of those people, and well, in America you probably rely on the fact that America is a very entrepreneurial country, right? So
That's also based on trust. There's
yes,
nothing
that's
else.
also
We don't
based
even
on
know them.
trust.
There's no village. It's all inner city.
Yes, so I think that we need to think of how to build trust
that,
in the
yeah.
society.
Exactly.
It's an important component
Exactly.
of this type of
Right.
business idea.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this conversation. We're very happy to have this conversation. But now we have to continue this discussion, and you'll be meeting somebody to continue this conversation. Who would you like to talk to?
Well, I would like to speak with Steve Chigueri and discuss with him his insights about how central banks should communicate, not only with investors and financial markets people, but more broadly with different audiences.
Good luck. I hope you enjoy your conversation.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
also hope so.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.